It is the Obstructed View podcast. Matt Mosley. You'll also hear this interview on ESPN Central Texas, the flagship for Baylor. And it's where J-Mo used to call games with this guy you're seeing now. And you can check us out on YouTube, Spotify, all the different places. And Eddie Lackey joining us now. And Eddie, it was so much fun to talk to you on the radio in recent years, and then to just kind of it's all of you guys from tomorrow. In fact, this afternoon on the radio station, I'm having your old buddy Colin Brentz.
Come on. I
Yeah,
love it.
who I'm trying to, I have to keep it all straight because you were 2012, 2013. I think
Yeah.
Colin, he had to wait till you got out of town to claim his starting role, and that might have been on that 2014 team. But
He sure did. Yeah.
welcome to the podcast, and man, what an exciting time as
Yeah.
for a lot of reasons we know about, some we will mention and talk about, but this was probably put off longer than it needed to be. But now that it's happening and y'all are coming in, it seems like most of you are going to be in town Friday for an event. I'm seeing, I have to laugh, Eddie. It's like only the Sopranos can go, hey, this is a private event. Only the Baylor teams 13 and 14 and Art can show up. But we are going to
Yeah.
put we're going to put, we're going to put like a big sign up about it and all, which is fine. But it's just, it
Yeah.
is kind of funny. We love those guys. We love the Sopranos. They're great friends. But
Yeah.
what's the anticipation been like? Because you're, as one of the team leaders, especially of that 13 team, and you had a great 2012 season, but I'm sure you've been spearheading, helping get as many of your former teammates together as possible. What's the build up to this been like? The
Yeah.
announcement that it was going to happen, and then trying to make sure you get as many guys as possible back to be celebrated.
Yeah, so I was really just honored and excited. It was a few months ago, really right before the season started. We had, just uh, several people from Baylor Athletics jump on a Zoom call with basically a committee of us. It was like me, Bryce Petty, Bryce Hager, Seth Russell, Levi Norwood. There's a handful of other guys, and that was when they kind of brought this to our attention that they were wanting to celebrate both of our teams together this year, and seemed fitting, and it's exciting that we get to have both of those teams together, and it's a brotherhood, and it's bizarre that it's been 10, 11 years since that's happened, but it still feels like it was just last week, and as far as reaching out to a lot of people, it's funny you say that. The thing that outside of all the festivities and everything that we're doing, and getting to have lunch with Briles and Bennett, and overall just celebrate as a team together. I put a group text together of about 20 former players on those teams and said, hey, you guys are all coming into town. We better play some golf. So I
Mm.
was trying to pull some strings at Ridgewood, and I pestered the club pro out there, Jimmy Cunningham, I think his name
Yeah.
is,
Yeah,
and
I know Jimmy.
he got us hooked up with some tee times, and so we've got a little game that we're gonna play on Saturday morning, and it'll just be fun to just catch up and reminisce, obviously, and go down the memory lane, and just kind of just reflect, and just a lot of gratitude from our team, and the conversation hasn't stopped. I think my phone was buzzing in that group text at like 10 o'clock last night. I mean, guys are just, I mean, they're asking, when are you coming in? When are you leaving? What hotel you staying at? Are you going to this, going to that? There's just a huge excitement about it, and it's all coming together really nicely, and just want this rain to stay away though. So
Yeah, we're not in total control, although at Baylor we do pray a lot. So maybe we could, pray for it to hold off, and maybe at least for y'all's golf round of golf
yeah,
out at Ridgewood.
yeah.
By the way, who do you think of these two teams being celebrated? Do you have who's kind of the leader? Are you a top five golfer, do you think, in this group if you're going to have 20 or 30 players out there? And seems like the quarterbacks always find a way to play the most golf and to have the nicest swings and the nicest equipment for whatever reason. Maybe they, but who are your kind of, give me the handicap? Who do you think
Yeah.
will be the best golfers on the team?
Well, I've already been looking at them, so it probably tells you something that most of the guys going out there do not have established handicaps. So probably tells you a little something. But I think there's about four of us. There's a few single digits, including myself. I'm a five right now. I think Bryce
Whoa.
Petty's a four, and Jordan Niver, I think he is a seven. So we're gonna try to do this little team captain deal and track it with an app throughout the time that we're playing and just make it a fun time. But yeah, it's not about that as much as it's just, hey, catching up with guys and why not go hit the sticks and play a little white ball.
Man, okay. A reminder not to get involved in any kind of money game with you. I played a ton of golf in life, and I've transitioned into tennis because it makes me
Yeah,
move around a little bit more.
let's
Uh,
go.
yes, yes. So I'm playing a lot of
You
tennis,
got
but
that lateral speed. I know it.
oh man, yeah, Eddie, it's worth coming out to watch me sometime. I'm sure. Yeah, you'll put that on your list.
Yeah. Oh
Now
yeah.
Eddie, I mean, I think back of you come to Baylor in 12. You had been at community college before that. I know you'd gone out to Michigan. I'm sure you love the weather going from California
Oh yeah.
out to this really remote and cold environment. I mean, even going back to how you arrived at Baylor, it's kind of amazing. And what's wild is, and I heard you talking about this recently, maybe with John Morris, but like and I even had this thought before we were going to do this today about like how when I started covering the Cowboys, they had Datwin and Dexter Coakley. And so, like, in some ways, I was trying to think in my mind, did you come along too late or too early? Because it's like your body size and your height, there
Hmm.
was a place for you in the NFL. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
I think when you were getting out, it was like Urlacher type. Everybody that, the old Brian Cox, everybody was like, we want you to
Yeah.
be 6'4" and 230 and can
Yeah.
run. And yet
Yeah.
there were times in the so anyway, I remember hearing you talk about you didn't totally know. You obviously were being recruited by some really good schools, Baylor being one of them. But that's wild that you showed up kind of like, hey, I wonder if I can do this. And then you go straight to all Big 12 for 2 straight years. Um, like, how quickly did you, when you got on campus and you got in practice with that 2012 team, did it kind of go, okay, like, did you come in with the confidence knowing I know I can do this, or did something have to happen like in spring football to make you go, okay, I think I can really? When did you sort of have that breakthrough moment
Yeah.
heading into that 2012 season?
Yeah, yeah, and that's fair. I really think it was a journey for sure. I mean, just to rewind a little bit, going back to the school that I went to in Michigan, it was a Division II school called Northwood University, and they basically said, "Hey, you can play whatever position you want to." And I was always told in high school, you're just not you're not natural size for a linebacker at the next level. You've got the talent, but you're going to be a safety and you need to switch it over to safety. And that's where I went my senior year in high school. At that point, our coaches in high school were really pushing to the college coaches, hey, this guy's a safety, he can ball, he can make plays. And so that's where the mind was with our coaching staff in high school and what they were telling college coaches. And so all that to be said, I went there, I played safety. I liked it, but it wasn't what I was natural at. I was always uncomfortable. I felt like, I couldn't
Mhm.
flip the hips and everything, like most safeties can, and I felt like I was way more natural down on the line of scrimmage. So, you fast forward to getting to Baylor. At first, yeah, it was extremely uncomfortable. I think you don't just jump right in and line up against the number one offense in the country and just feel comfortable. It was pretty bizarre the amount of points. Everybody remembers how many points those offenses were putting up on teams, and that's what I was going up against immediately. And Bennett and Gush are they actually wanted me to play middle initially, so they recruited me to play middle, and they had me and Hager competing against each other, and it was very it was unique. We didn't have the friendship quite yet, but it was very friendly. I mean, we wouldn't really hang out outside of practice and everything because we were still like we understood we were competing for the same spot. But they were like, why are we doing this? Why don't we have both of these guys play? And
Mm.
so they moved me to that outside spot at the will linebacker, and that was the perfect fit for me, and the middle spot was perfect for Briles. So, and then as far as the comfort goes, uh, you could tell there was a lot of growing pains in that 2012 season. That was my first year, and a lot of mental errors, a lot of stuff that I didn't realize. If I'm honest, I didn't know enough about a pulling guard at that point. I didn't know enough about how to read your initial key reads with the offensive line, and I had to learn all that stuff. So I think that's just a testament to the development that we had with our coaching staff. They really believed in me, and they believed that I had the talent to play and succeed at that level, and be an impact maker. And they needed to develop me, and so I can't credit it enough to the development. Coach Gush and Coach Bennett, I always joke about it, but everybody knew my name on the field, not for a good reason. It was always, tearing into me for doing the wrong things on the field, and getting under a block I shouldn't have gotten under, or just doing dumb stuff.
Yeah.
And so I finally settled down, and it was about midway through that season that things settled down and moved in the right direction, got really comfortable, started making some plays, and then that just fed into that 2013 season. So
You know, your numbers are staggering for those two seasons, like in terms of tackles, TFLs. Um, I mean, it was like I think combined maybe 23 or 24 in those two seasons. Lots of sacks, but the thing I remember you for, you had these huge game-changing interceptions. One to really seal a big victory over TCU. I believe that was in 13. And
mhm,
that was Big Paul Hall. I went back and looked at that last night because I think he was number 4. Because I was thinking, right,
mhm,
Boykin kind of
that's
came in and
correct.
started playing at some point that season, but that
Yeah.
Paul Hall was playing in that game, and he tried to kind of go with a pretty short pass, and there you were, and the
Yeah.
announcers were talking about, oh, he baited him into it. He baited
Yeah.
him. So, like, I guess that safety kind of time probably did end up helping you in a lot of
Sure.
ways. It
Sure.
might have felt awkward to you, but in
Yeah.
terms of the fact that you were a ball hawk
Hmm.
and maybe had more interceptions than any Baylor player ever in a 2-year span, especially a linebacker. Maybe there was a cornerback or safety, but like
Yeah.
7 in 2 years. That play specifically, though, you took it to the house for a 54-yard return.
Yeah.
What was it, Eddie, about the fact that you always had these like huge your return average at Baylor on your interceptions was somewhere like 23 to 27 yards per return. You didn't just catch it and run to the sideline or fall down. You were
Yeah.
looking to score. I think you had 3
Mhm.
pick sixes.
Yeah.
What was that mentality, and what do you attribute that to?
Man, if I got to rewind a little bit to think through that, because it was funny. My first year in football, just pee wee football days, first grade. I remember ginormous pads and helmet, and I scored 37 touchdowns my first year in football. So running back was always what I thought I was going to be. Like I always thought I was going to be a running back, and not to say that that's what that's where I can attribute things to, but I always wanted to have the ball in my hands. I always wanted to score touchdowns. But goes back to I really wasn't natural at it as I developed and just getting into high school and stuff. They would put me in certain packages, but uh, really I think I had a knack for I just had instincts, and it is one thing that you can't coach, they say, with instincts. And I always was it would bite me sometimes if my instincts were wrong. I think that's where I really had to learn and kind of weigh out the cost there. If I try to jump under a route and grab this ball and get upfield, what's the cost if that doesn't happen? And it's probably a touchdown or it's a big gain. And so I had to get smarter. I tried to do certain things like that in 2012, my first year, and it just wasn't the right thing. But to just hit on the TCU interception that you're referencing, I remember, just to give you an example, that was that was a kind of a unique deal because I was watching Paul Hall. He knew that I was kind of playing a little off, as well as I believe it was Sam Hall. He was lined up over Trayvon Boykin because Boykin was playing receiver in that game, and so he was that inside receiver. He looks at him and he kind of gives this little like tap on his thigh, really, and I there's only so many things that's going to mean. And to me, I'm kind of breaking it down and I put myself in his head thinking like a quarterback probably would. And they're on the same page. They see we're playing off and it's like, I don't know, I can't remember if it was like second or third down and 5. So they know probably an easy first down potentially. So I really just assumed, and instincts told me that they were going to run that slant, and sure enough, that's what happened. So I just had to make sure my angles were right. I wanted to not show that I understood what that little sign was that he gave to Boykin, but it obviously worked out really well.
Yeah, and I always remember like where I was for, maybe that's the narcissist in me, like where I was, when these big Baylor moments happened, and I think I was at Disney World for some reason, and I don't even know why we would go
Nice.
during the season in 2012, watching that Texas Tech game, and that was one of those back and forth crazy affairs. And to start the fourth quarter, you give Baylor the lead on one of those signature, and you may have even had one to kind of wrap up that game. It may have been a 2 interception game for you, but that was another one you took to the house. I mean, it's like I'm sure I know, and I've joked with you before. Like I would feel bad for you guys when I would watch Phil Bennett on the sideline, and it's amazing. I've never understood how coaches could do that. And then I heard you say recently you named your third child Bennett after
Yeah,
Phil, and I'm just like, how could
sure
he
did.
take that much punishment
Yeah.
and turn around and name a child after it? And I'm sure it's just because you love the guy and you knew he
Hmm.
loved you, and so you were
Yeah.
willing to take that kind of coaching. But
Yeah.
it's it was like it was an amazing couple of seasons because even in 2012, there's part of you as a defense that's like, oh my gosh, we're getting crushed here. We're giving up too many yards. We're giving up too many points. And then yet y'all would make these huge game changing plays. What
Hmm.
was that like to be a part of? In some ways, you're probably always getting beat up. Oh man, the offense has to put up whatever many points. But then again, when it was time, y'all would make huge plays. But that had to be
Yeah.
kind of a real roller coaster, I would think, as a player, knowing
Yeah.
in those types of huge swing type games.
Yeah. Yeah, and what I'd say about, I know you mentioned we named our son Bennett after Coach Bennett, and what I think people didn't see is what was happening off camera, what was happening off the field, and I even think of games like the West Virginia game in 2012 when we had 70 plus points scored on us. I mean, I think we were all broken. We didn't know how to come back after that, just mentally, physically, emotionally, and it was. I think I got like decleated in practice that following week by Laquan McGowan, and Coach Bennett just rips me out of there. Basically, sat me for the rest of practice, and we just had a long heart-to-heart conversation in his office for probably 45 minutes to an hour. And a lot of it wasn't about football. It was just kind of it was character building for sure. And he's I can't say enough good things about him. You see all those things. I, I think he definitely has that other spark to him that everybody sees. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he told me probably 20 different times he was going to send me back to California, but he never did, thankfully. But he, like I said, it was the stuff that you didn't see off the field and the conversations that we had after. He cared way more about you as a person, as an individual, as a student athlete, as a future father and husband and that kind of thing too. So, but as far as making plays in those moments, even with the roller coaster of just bad plays thrown in there too. I think what that was is we we had the talent, we had the guys, but we didn't have it. We didn't have it all together, and
Hmm.
we were we were really I think I said this the other day, but it's like give an inch, you give a mile, and it's that kind of mentality, I think, where we would miss assignments by an inch, or we would take a false step at the beginning of a play, and that's all it took for, in the Big 12, with how fast and high power, and the pass game it is. It's just, you can't make those kind of mistakes, and we made those far too often. But when we didn't make those mistakes, it gave us those opportunities to really show, and show what we were capable of. And I think that's where, halfway through that season in 2012, things just finally started to click. Things started to turn a corner there, and we started not making those mistakes as much. So really, really fun once that started to click for everybody, and guys were really gelling as a defense, and a lot of fun.
All right. And I have to think this celebration of these teams is going to be, there's going to be a little bit of just fun and guys having a great time and golf, but there may be a little bit of healing that takes place in the sense that, man, I get it. Like, y'all watch this national firestorm hit, and of course you were gone by the time it all happened, but
Hmm.
those teams still, they're all those great Briles teams. It was kind of like even Baylor fans and media, people that, they didn't exactly know, like, well, how do we view that now? Like this, okay, they've had this scandal. Um, During that period of time when it all that hit in 2016, and Art's gone, Ian's gone, the president's gone, and you couldn't help Eddie. I mean, there you are out in Abilene, and suddenly everybody has this certain opinion. Either they think Art didn't do anything wrong and this was bad and Baylor handled this poorly, or they think Baylor's a horrible place now and why would I ever send my daughter there? So you have all these polarizing opinions. Did As someone that was a part of it, like, what what was that like? Like, did anybody ever like come up to you and almost like question your association with Baylor? Did you ever have to find yourself like almost defending that your coaching staff? And like, how did you handle that? Or did you? I mean,
Hmm.
because it's like when you go through something crazy like that, it either forces you to, maybe even believe in Art and that gang more. I'm just wondering, how did you kind of process all of that as it
Hmm.
was playing out nationally and became, an enormous story across the country?
Hmm. Well, there's nothing easy about that. It was extremely disheartening. I'll never forget the day, that I, I found out that Coach Briles got fired, and all this stuff was kind of coming out. And it really, it, it's extremely tough to talk about. I think um, it leaves a little bit of just a bad, obviously a bad taste in your mouth, but it kind of blemishes those years in some ways when you're talking to people about it. We're very proud of those teams. We're proud of our coaches. We're proud of just everything about those years. And it felt like for a minute, that those things kind of were just gone, and we didn't have the right to celebrate that anymore. Or it was, I was never embarrassed to like talk about my team, but at the same time, you know uh, people would bring it up to me. And if I'm honest, I wasn't always super excited to talk to people about it. I didn't want to,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of it was people coming up making passive aggressive jokes. and
Mm.
and I'm the type of guy, like, I'm pretty easygoing, but that one, that topic for me was pretty bitter, to be honest. And I'll still from time to time get a comment, and it's not a joke to me. I don't really, it's not a joke when guys are making those kind of comments. And people just want to be, guys want to be guys sometimes, and they want to say something. But not sitting here trying to cause fights or anything. But it's just like, it's hard to talk about those times. And
Yeah.
I don't think anybody can really understand unless you're on those teams. Just just what we saw while we were there. What kind of men Coach Briles were creating. I mean, and Bennett. I told you I named my son after Coach Bennett, and for things to go down the way that they did, it's there's no words to put to it
Mhm.
other than it was just completely disheartening, and we were
Mhm.
crushed. I know a lot of us were talking just amongst each other, and just times that were extremely tough, and no tougher time for anybody than Coach Briles. So I
Mhm.
think with this weekend, being able to have that time with him for a few hours and hang out, and just catch up and talk about those times, talk about the really maybe not even about the football times, talking about the men that we are today and how we can
Mhm.
accredit a lot of that stuff to what he instilled into to us as men and our character. And there's so many guys I can sit here and name off that would be right there with me. I mean, our whole team pretty much is going to be there. It's over max capacity, so I don't know how this thing is going to work out. We're going to be kind of pushing out into the parking lot, but it's just going to be a really good time catching up with him, and uh, really really going to fill my cup up. I can tell you that.
Yeah, it's and I still keep in touch with them, and I think that'll be to see you guys and be around you is gonna, because pretty much everybody in the staff, including Coach Bennett, were able to go on with their careers, and obviously Art's career has never been the same. And we should add that other folks involved in that scandal, we think of the proper the sympathy and the empathy that we have for everybody involved there. Now we don't have any empathy or sympathy for the TCU Horned Frogs. I think this is fun that this is the weekend that's being celebrated. It's going to be a blackout. I can't in the press box, as I explained to you, Eddie, I can't wear my Baylor stuff, but I can probably put on a black shirt, and I'll be okay in that regard. When you first got to Baylor, like, did you pick up on immediately? Had the I guess until because TCU was just getting back in the conference right around 2012, so that was like
Hmm.
first
First
year
year.
back. By
Yeah.
13, though, had that. And a lot of this was fueled, as you know, between Art
Hmm.
and Gary. And so that was
Hmm.
wild when Gary had that brief association with Baylor, as you
Yeah.
saw. Um, how much were you as players and even the TCU players feeding off of that and picking up on that? And I would say even after your Baylor days, 14, 15, I mean, those were
Hmm.
some monster back and forth games, and it meant a lot to those fan bases. How much
Yeah.
how much were y'all picking up on that as players?
Oh, a ton. I mean, that brought all the energy. We love to see Coach Briles and Patterson going at it, and but just in general, I think that it's such a perfect revivalry is what we call it, and it's such a the first game that I actually watched of Baylor. Um, I was in junior college, so I had just started getting recruited by Baylor, and I remember popping on that game that we beat them at the end, and Robert throws a touchdown at the end of the game, and it was just an electric game, and it was in Waco, and I was more than intrigued when I saw that game. I was like, I want to be a part of that, and I want to be not just a part of that program, but I want to be a part of that rivalry. That looks like fun. And so the I think that there's obviously a lot of banter and talk throughout the weeks when you're building up to this week. We had some pretty vocal guys like Ahmad Dixon. I remember they'd be either tweeting for everybody to see, or they'd be texting back and forth with some of their receivers, and just talking a little bit of smack to each other because they knew each other just through the network of high school, Texas high school football, and uh, there's just something about a rivalry that makes it so much more fun, and I
Mhm.
think that's why I'm excited that we're being celebrated for these championship teams at our rivalry game in with a blackout, and it just is very fitting. And so I always enjoyed those games. I think we got beat be pretty good in 2012. So they got one on one of the teams that I played with, and then we got them that next year. So I think it was crazy because I think there was probably 5 or 6 different years where it was just within 3 points to a touchdown. The final score. So just shows how good of a rivalry it is, and hope we can make it that way. Again very soon.
All right, and don't let your buddies tailgate too much that they don't get over there to run with the Baylor line. I think Seth may have, who was not on either. Well, he was on the team, wasn't he, as a young guy? But he it was before he kind of took over. But I think he broke
Yeah,
that news that y'all were going to be,
sure.
as that was unveiled. But are you
Yep.
going to run from the front? Will you kind of let the freshmen? What's the plan there? And I
I,
heard you say something about hamstrings, but you
yeah,
and Colin and a lot of these guys
yeah.
look like to be in very good shape still. So I'm not too concerned about you.
So here's the thing. I don't think I've sprinted in probably 2 years. So it's about to go down. Not in a good way for my hamstrings, and probably quads, calves. I don't know. Maybe Achilles, knock on wood. But I don't care. I'm running full speed. I'm
Mm.
ready to go. I've watched these guys do it long enough, and I think watching Robert do it that one year and smoke everybody down to the corner of the tunnel was pretty fun to watch. But we're already talking a bunch of smack to each other and just talking about racing. So some of the guys, I think Petty the other day had mentioned he's not running because he's tripped once already, against Oklahoma State. For those of you guys that don't know, and he just can't risk it for his pride to trip again when he's out there. So I thought that was pretty funny. But I know he's sitting this one out. He's gonna watch us, but a lot of the other guys are gonna be doing it, and I'm excited.
Is that your joke, or did Bryce actually make that about
That that
himself?
was Bryce. Yeah. That was Bryce.
That's
At least
good.
he can humor himself about that these days.
Oh man, I know. I was there that night, and there wasn't a lot of humor in that stadium. And
No.
boy, at some point
Mm-mm.
that season, I think that's when you took over. It's interesting that you played Will because you had to take
Yeah.
over at middle linebacker for
Yep.
Bryce. He gets
Yeah.
hurt, and then Spencer, I think, got hurt at some point during that season. And so, but y'all
Hmm.
finished strong. I mean, you
Yeah.
absolutely had a
Hmm.
unbelievable season, and of
Hmm.
course we got the Fiesta Bowl. We were all having a great time out there, but as you recall, too much of the focus that week for all of us, and I'm
Yeah.
sure it got into the team too, was whether University of Texas was going to try to hire Art, and everybody was hoping Art would stay, and the president at a pep rally was up there
Yep.
trying to hawk Art's book. He was telling everybody to buy it. And I thought to myself, I
Yeah.
don't think us buying Art's book
Yeah.
is going to cause him to stay. But as you
Right.
recall, there was a lot of the focus was not exactly
Yeah.
perhaps on that bowl game, and I don't know what it was from
Yeah.
your perspective. I mean, it's not like y'all went out there trying to lose the
Yeah.
game, but it may have not been as sharp as
No.
it could have been.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that there was a lot of exterior factors there. No excuses. We just didn't show up that night, and I think that was a tough way to finish out such a great year, and I think we wanted a team. If I'll be bold enough to say it, we wanted a team more like Alabama, or like
Yeah.
something like that. We wanted to be able to match up against them. So I know that there was a lot of talk with the guys, when we played the school that we played. It just wasn't. I think that factored into it, and guys just there wasn't a lot of focus that week, and it really stinks, because that's the last game that I played in, and really. I mean, I played a CFL preseason game, but that doesn't really count compared to that Fiesta Bowl atmosphere and what was on the line there. So really stinks that that's the very last game that I played, and uh, we got it handed to us from UCF.
Well, yeah. I mean, Baylor people think when they hear Blake Bortles, we have certain thoughts. It does bring back some of that, but
Yeah.
the truth is, it does not diminish what was an incredible career from you. And then, and by the way, it doesn't matter how much you played in the CFL, you still played professional football. Okay. That is,
Appreciate
that
that.
is what we're going to go with.
I
And
tore
you,
my labrum on the interception that I had in the Fiesta Bowl with Bortles there. Sam Hall kind of tipped it.
yeah.
I grabbed it right before it hit the ground, and my feet were kind of above my head. Just the way that I landed was super awkward, and that was my third shoulder surgery. So I had surgery
Ooh,
right after that game the next week, and that really set things off
yeah.
in a bad way for the trajectory of my career.
Yeah.
So
Well, but I mean, the thing is, you could run. My gosh, you ran at least a 4.5. I mean, so you had a lot of things going your way between you and Seth.
yeah,
There was enough athleticism. I mean, it was pretty incredible. So,
yeah.
you were the portal before the portal, man. You were,
Yeah.
and you would have collected all sorts of NIL. Look at
Oh,
that
I'm sure.
timing, by the way, on that. That settlement goes back and
Totally.
gets certain years, right? So
I know.
let's make sure you're represented
I,
on that thing, okay?
I hear it's 10 years, and it was right at 11 years that they put that into action, I think. So,
Well,
of course.
you're doing well. You're an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
and you've got a business going there for I don't know, going on 5 6 years. You've opened,
Yeah.
so you've done
Yeah.
extremely well. So
Thank you.
it's exciting. I appreciate you spending
Yeah.
so much time, and
Yeah.
in addition to running a business, this week you've been called upon for all sorts of media, and you'll be at that lunch with the legends, and you and some of your teammates are going to be featured there. And then you have the deal with Art. Maybe we can come in the parking lot and just kind of peek in and see
Come
what you
on.
guys are up to.
Let's go.
Yeah, but hey, thank you, man.
Yeah.
That was fun. I knew it would
Yeah.
be, and it is. Yeah, thank you for doing that. I like the BU
Yeah.
helmet in the background, and I can tell
Yeah.
you're doing some media now. Boy, you've been doing some film room and all that. Well, last thing I
Yeah.
had for you is like seeing Matt Jones, when you see a linebacker have a game like he just did against Oklahoma State, all those tackles, all the forced fumble down on the goal line. You had an incredible play at the goal line
Mhm.
against the man who's coaching at A&M now, the offense coordinator there, Colin Klein. Y'all beat them when they were number one in the country, 2012. It was a huge game. But is this crew? Do you kind of feel it coming together?
Yeah.
This current Baylor team.
Yeah, I totally do. I mean, they've got some dogs on the defense. I mean, I really think Matt Jones, he's a player. He's coming, this week. I think he got awarded the Big 12 Defense Player of the Week.
Yeah.
I think he had 12 tackles, total tackles, and then he had 3 tackle for losses, a sack, and a forced fumble. I mean, he lit it up this week, and that's just one of the guys. And you've got Steve Linton that's in there, just constantly making plays. He recovered that fumble that Matt forced this week, and that was right before they were about to go in and score a touchdown potentially. That was right down at the 1 yard line, and we turned it over. And then the next play, I think, what did we take it up the field, like 50, 60 yards or something? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I know that the next play was a pretty big play. So as far as offensively, but I think that we've got the tools. I think a lot like the 2012 season that we had, a lot like that defense where we uh, we had the guys, we had the playmakers, but we were making those mental mistakes. We were making those fundamental mistakes a lot, and I think we saw a lot of that, unfortunately, at the beginning of this season. But now, these last 2 weeks, man, it's been a testament to just the development of these guys, and these guys really getting in tune. And I think Aranda's really, getting these guys on the right track. So I'm excited to see where it goes. I really think we're going to finish out the year strong. Hopefully, go win us a bowl game, and I really hope that for these guys, because they want it. They
Yeah.
want to win. So we can get all upset and irritated and everything, but nobody's more upset and irritated than those guys.
Yeah.
Actually playing the game. So we've always got to keep that in consideration. So I want it for them. Hopefully, we can finish out the year strong and
Yeah.
make some big plays.
All right. Look forward to seeing you. When you were a Pee Wee player and you had those 37 touchdowns, I think we look back on that and can say you were the Dawson Pendergrass of that league. Okay, you
There you
probably had a
go. I
juke
love
and
it.
all of that. Eddie, thanks, man.
Yes,
That was
sir.
great.
Thank you, Matt. This was great, and we sure appreciate the celebration and look forward to connecting with you while I'm there.
That'll be great. It is
Yeah,
come to the tailgate. We'll be at the alumni tent out
will
there,
do.
Baylor alumni tent. It is Eddie Lackey. It is Obstructed View podcast right here on the Rogue Media Network. I'm Matt Mosley. We'll see you next time.
We are Rogue Media Sports.